careful when you're struggling with your faith, because when you're struggling with your faith, sometimes God, when he's working on you, he'll send you a Goliath so that you don't have to struggle with your faith anymore, so he can show you who he is. Now, I want to encourage everybody that if you're struggling with your faith, I want you to go to 1 Samuel chapter 17. Read that whole chapter. That's the story about David and Goliath. Now, I know most of you have heard that story, but as adults, I want you to dissect and read that story, and I want you to apply it to your life today. Now, I'm just going to give a brief overview about the story. Just so you know, Goliath was a descendant of the giants of old. This guy was 9 feet tall, carried a huge sword with thick armor plating, and he was the champion of a whole country. And he walked in front of their army, taunting the other army, beating his chest, calling out the whole army, saying, "Send me your best guy. Send me somebody to defeat me." And I'm going to tell you something. That's the way evil works in this world. Evil works in this world. It calls out to everyone, to God's people, begging to be defeated, showing off its strength. Evil shows off its might. Don't you understand that these big people, these big things that are out here are walking around boastful with their evil? Boastful and bragging, saying, "I dare you to stop me." All of the Lord's army was afraid, everybody. All of Israel was afraid because they saw this giant 9-foot tall champion walking back and forth, just taunting them. And there was no faith to be found anywhere except for in a small shepherd boy. There was a shepherd boy named David that approached the king of the Jews' army. He approached Saul and he said, "Why are you guys afraid of this giant? I'll handle him." Of course, Saul dismissed this man. He said, "You're just a little boy. You can't do it. You can't do it at all." And then Saul heard some truth in what David was talking about. David went to him and said, "Listen, I serve God, and I watch these sheep, and while I serve God, some bears and some lions and things like that have come and taken sheep. And because I trust in the Lord, I went after these sheep with just my club. And I went out and I defeated these bears and I defeated these lions and I brought back the sheep." David had been working. David had been working, and David had noticed that God was with him. And he had gained real faith in God. He had learned to trust the Lord, not himself. He knew that it wasn't him. He knew that it wasn't his skill. He moved himself out of the way and he said, "God delivered me each time, as he will against this giant." And as we know, the story goes on that David went out without the armor that was offered to him, without all of the fancy weapons, and he went out against this 9-foot tall giant with a few smooth stones and a slingshot. And that slingshot was there with David as he stood against this 9-foot tall giant. Now, how many of us got 9-foot tall giants in our lives? How many of us got people lying on us? How many of us got our job persecuting us? How many of us are in abusive relationships that we can't seem to get out of? How many of us are going through problems that are our Goliath? If we trust in the Lord, if we have faith in the Lord, we can go out against our own Goliath with little to nothing but the faith in our God. He went out against this giant with these 5 smooth stones and a sling, and he defeated Goliath through faith. And I'm telling you today that I've had my Goliaths in my life. I've went out against lies. I've went out against adversaries that were seeking to destroy me. And God made sure that I didn't have access to all of the fancy weaponry that I'm used to, all of the money, all of the things that I'm used to relying on, but that I had to rely on him. That's our God. And he taught me faith. He sent me out with just me and my little lawyer. He sent me out with just me and my faith. He sent me out with just me and his word and his son. We defeated our Goliath. Be careful if you're lacking faith. God will give you a Goliath when he's working on you.